You're listening to the Just Japan podcast. Everything you want to know about Japan.
Well, hey there, folks, and welcome to episode number 178 of the Just Japan podcast. Everything you want to know about Japan. My name is Kevin O'Shea, and I'm the host of this weekly show that brings you all kinds of goodness about Japan. And this week, we're in the home stretch in the PyeongChang 2018 Winter Olympics. And you know what? I would be remiss if I didn't do an Olympics episode, because every time there is a Summer Games or a Winter Games since I've been podcasting, I have brought someone on to talk about the Olympics. And of course, people in Japan were so delighted just this past weekend when Yuzuru Hanyu won Olympic gold in men's figure skating. So I figured I'd bring on my friend PJ, Kansai PJ. You guys know him. He's been on the podcast a lot before. He's a huge figure skating fan, and I couldn't think of anyone better to talk about Hanyu's Olympic gold. And Japan also won a silver in men's figure skating as well. So he's going to be on this week's episode to talk all about that cool stuff. Now remember, guys, all of the goodness of the Just Japan podcast can be found over at justjapanstuff.com. Not just a podcast, but a ton of other cool stuff over there too. This week we've got two guest writers who've written some blogs for Just Japan Stuff. We've got Mr. Craig Hoffman, who is the man behind Grey Grizzled and Gaijin, that awesome blog. He wrote a piece for us. And also Josh Yates, who was a guest just a few weeks ago on our episode about Kyoto writers. He also wrote a piece for Just Japan Stuff. So go there, check it out over at justjapanstuff.com, and you can read their pieces. Very interesting stuff. And I've written some stuff in the past week that's been put up there too, and some nice photo blogs and things like that. So if you want to see some nice shots of blossoms in Japan, it'll get you feeling like you're in the springtime already. Some more news. Something really cool I wanted to announce is that there will be another Just Japan podcast meetup that will be happening in June of this year. I don't have a specific date as of yet, but keep your calendars open, folks. Near the end of June in 2018. And I'll be hosting it again, like I have in the past, in Kobe, Japan. So Kobe, Japan, Just Japan podcast meetup. Everyone's welcome. If you're in that area of Japan, I would love for you to come probably to the Harbor Tavern in Kobe and meet up and talk about some cool stuff. And the more people I get to meet, the happier I always am. So again, if you're available, June this year, there will be another Just Japan podcast meetup in Kobe, Japan. Right, guys, without further ado, let's learn more about Japan and this year's Winter Olympics.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Folks, welcome to episode 178 of the podcast. And it's been a long time. Hisa Shibari. Welcome back, PJ.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Yeah, the last episode you were on was the Sayonara Party episode quite a long time ago.
I remember that well.
So the big episode, the farewell party, podcast party, just before I left Japan. But you know what? I'm not in Japan now, but we talk about it every week here on the podcast. And hey, there's been some pretty big news. There's always big news, but the reason why I'm talking to PJ tonight, folks, is it's all about the PyeongChang 2018 Winter Olympics. Yeah, so by the time this comes out, well, this will come out tomorrow, which will be a Tuesday, the 19th, maybe?
The 20th.
20th, okay. So, we're kind of in the home stretch of the Winter Olympics, but, it's going to be an episode filled with great information and stuff. And the reason why I wanted to talk to you was because on Sunday or Saturday? Was it Saturday? Saturday.
I think Saturday, yeah.
Saturday. So I'm just out of it. I've been on a holiday. A Chinese New Year holiday here in Beijing at my international school is a 2-week holiday. So.
That sounds nice. Oh
yeah, it's nice. I can't complain. I mean, I just had like a 3-week winter holiday that ended at the beginning of January, and now I've got a 2-week holiday in the middle of February. Not complaining, guys. Not complaining. and don't send me hate mail about that one, folks. I apologize. But yeah, so. There was obviously the Olympics are on. I follow a lot of sports, but the people in Japan, definitely follow one specific athlete maybe more than others. And you know what I'm talking about? Someone won a gold medal. Who was that?
Yuzuru Hanyu.
Mm-hmm. Yay! And he won the medal for men's figure skating, the gold medal.
Yes.
And then there was also another Japanese skater who won some hardware.
Yeah, Shoma came in second for the silver. And I think I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time a country has run back-to-back silver and gold in men's since 2002. I think that was Russia.
Oh, who last year? Okay, I mean not last year, but in Sochi, a Japanese skater won silver?
No, I mean when Russia won in 2002.
Oh, okay.
So that was, what was that, 16 years ago.
Okay. And so there's, okay.
They're very proud.
Well, first of all, let's backtrack a few moments. For those of the new Just Japan podcast listeners out there who maybe are jumping into the water, so they're drinking the Kool-Aid for the first time, so to speak.
Welcome to the team.
They may not know who you are, so can you just give us a little bit of an intro? Tell the listeners a little bit about who the heck is PJ?
Who is PJ? Well, PJ is me. Kevin, you and I have been friends forever. We met on YouTube back in the YouTube days.
Yeah, that's right.
And I had a channel, and you were coming to Japan, and we've been good friends ever since. I'm a university teacher in Osaka, a graduate student getting my PhD or attempting to get my PhD slowly. And as the reason why I'm on tonight, not just because we're friends, but I am a figure skating fan, which in this country is an intensely popular sport, as you know, intensely popular sport.
Absolutely, yeah. There's there is always, of course, there's 1.5 million differences one can say when comparing, say, Japan to Canada or America. And one thing that I've always found very fascinating is that, there's certain sports, for example, that in America wouldn't maybe have a kind of a mainstream following, or maybe it would be niche. Whereas in Japan, that doesn't really fit the mold. Like, for example, like distance running. The fact that the Hakone Ekiden on January, is it 2nd and 3rd? Is it? Yeah. I think so. So it's like a 2-day like marathon relay race. It's broadcast nationally, and it's one of the biggest sporting events in Japan.
Yes.
Like marathon runners are household names.
It's in this country for sure.
Yeah, and another thing. I mean, a sport like figure skating is obviously very popular around the world, but I think it really, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to kind of reach to a much broader audience in Japan than it does maybe in other countries.
Well, I think there are two levels of fans. I think the hardcore, I think, is true in any country. There's always a small number that, like me, follow it very, very, very closely. But I would say, unlike, let's say, America, less so in Canada, but still, there's a lesser of, the general fans are much larger here. And everybody in this country knows Yuzuru Hanyu, and they know Mao Asada, they know Shoma Uno. These names are household names. They do commercials. They have special book deals, So they're what, in America would be almost equivalent to basketball or...
True, huh? Yeah.
Maybe, but close, very close.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, like someone like Asada Mao, I mean, when she was in her heyday, she was just everywhere. Her image was plastered everywhere. She was like essentially like a Kobe Bryant or something almost. I mean,
yeah, very much so. Yeah,
very much so.
And they can't go out. They can't, even now. She can't go out in public. They can't go shopping. They can't walk down the street. It's so. They are big. I think last year, the only star that was bigger than Hanyu in terms of the Q rating or the media rating was Nishikori Ken, the tennis player.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, even just on Sunday, my wife was like so excited. She was reading, Japanese news, and she's like, "Kevin," like she's like, "Mao-chan," Mao-chan. That's what he referred to her as. Like it's like your friend, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely, for
She's like,
sure.
Mao-chan, she ran the Honolulu Marathon. She finished in like 4 hours and blah, 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 blah. And she was showing me pictures. So like my wife was very excited to see that Sada Mao, who's now retired,
Yes.
She ran a marathon in Hawaii. But
It's great because she couldn't have done
news.
that before. She's really seems to be embracing her retirement actively, and it's good for her. I mean, it's good to know that there's life after whatever the sport. I always worry about Olympic athletes because you wonder what happens when it's all done.
Mm.
And she seems, at least from what's in the press, Mao's doing very well, still making a lot of money, but living her own life now, which is great. Because
Nice.
figure skaters in Japan generally aren't allowed to live their own lives. They're rarefied characters, and they're not allowed to be bad boys or bad girls. And it's good to see that she's getting out and doing stuff on her own.
Interesting. So, I mean, obviously, with the majority of Olympic athletes, if you come from a nation like Canada, for example,
Sure.
you get these people who win gold medals, and they all have day jobs. Like that's.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's a, what was it? I think there was a new event in curling this year, mixed doubles curling, where they have that's actually really exciting. It's a really cool sport.
I liked it. I really like curling. I don't get all the rules, but I like to watch. Strangely, for me, it's very soothing and it's very technical. And I like the intricacy of it.
You and Mr. T. I don't. Did you hear about that?
No.
Oh, okay. It's been all over the news now. Mr. T, the actual guy from the A Team, Mr. T, B.A. Baracus, he's like 65 years old now. He lives in Los Angeles, and he's been feverishly watching every moment of curling he can during the Olympics and live tweeting everything he watches. And he's just basically discovered curling. I heard an interview with him on Canadian Public Radio yesterday, and it's something like he's got some kind of hashtag that's like one of his like something curling with one of his like I pity the foo or your foo.
Really?
But they were interviewing him, and he was just like, I love it. He was just, it's amazing, like the grace they use when they release the stone and how much accuracy they have and the strategies. And he was like, I'm just learning how to do it, but I'm wondering if I could do it myself. And it was really cool to hear Mr. T is huge into curling. But
maybe he can make it a big sport in America. Curling is another sport that Americans like to watch during the Olympics, but otherwise tend to ignore.
But I think what I was before I got sidetracked by Mr. T. Basically what I was thinking is how there was an interview with the father of like in the mixed doubles, Canada won the gold medal, and the man on the team actually, they said I believe he's a full-time firefighter or something like that. And then all these people I know from Canada anyway. Not that I personally know, but a lot of these athletes, top athletes. I mean, that's they're teachers, they're nurses, they're that they have these day jobs. But in Japan, obviously, on a level, someone like Hanyu or Asada Mao, that's not the case at all.
No, they couldn't. They'd be mobbed. They make enough. Japan's not really known for supporting their Olympic athletes very well, I think, in my opinion, anyway. But they take care of the figure skaters very well, the top level ones, anyway. And they, book contracts, commercials, ads. And skating, as you know, has off season. They do shows, and the top level skaters around the world will come to Japan because they get paid big dollars to perform shows here.
Because there's big crowds that want to go and see them, right?
Very big, yeah. You have to fight to get the tickets, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so over to Hanyu.
Okay.
I want to talk about a little bit about kind of pre PyeongChang 2018. He had some issues with injuries and stuff, but for those out there who might not know, and guys, the reason why we're talking about this on the podcast is this is huge news in Japan. This is a big deal.
Yes.
This is a really big deal. So I really think that those who may have not lived in Japan before, this might be a bit hard to grasp.
Exactly.
But so who is Yuzuru Hanyu? Just for those who might not know who he is, or this is the first time they've ever heard, or they don't know much. Who can you tell us a little bit about him in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, he's 23. He was born in Sendai, which has a long history for figure skating.
Okay.
Takeshi Handa, Shizuka Arakawa, who also were Olympic athletes, came from there. He's been in the spotlight since he was, I don't know, 5 or 6.
Oh, really?
2008, I think, was his debut in the junior season, well before I became interested. But he's been, he's very photogenic, and he's the kind of the ideal Japanese, the manga type of male, very thin, very lively, androgynous, but in a kind of a new, a neo-masculine sort of way. So he's very much the type of guy that many girls and many guys want to their type or what they aspire to be. And he's very polite. He's very well spoken. His father was a junior high school, senior high school vice principal. So he's the kind of person that they've wanted to put up.
Kind of like the boy next door, essentially.
Yeah, very much so. And Sendai is a large city in the north, but small enough, still about 1 million people, but it's small enough that he was well known before he was famous elsewhere.
Okay.
And just to give you a taste for his personality, I was at a figure skating show, an ice show that they did right after the Olympics and after Sochi, so 4 years ago in Sendai. And they put on this show, and at the end of the show, they have all the skaters line up against the backdrop, the stage, where they have the musicians and the skaters and everybody, and they take pictures. The audience is still watching. Well, after that's over, the rest of the skaters take to the ice, and they slide around to wave at fans. And Hanyu is folding the chairs along with the staff.
Oh, really?
He's just that kind of person. He's not humble. He believes he's the best there is, and I would argue that's true.
Yeah.
But he doesn't think he's a better person. I've never talked to him, but I've seen him in person at several events. He seems very humble. He's well spoken in English. I mean, it's a second language. He struggles with it, but he's very polite. And in Japanese, it's so much more humble and polite. So he's the kind of person, like you say, that they want to put out. The Japanese, particularly, I think the conservative establishment that runs Olympic sports, that's their ideal. Okay. He's not he's not a wild person. He's not out partying or drinking. He's really dedicated towards skating, and that's something I think Japan really likes, that when you put 1,000% commitment into something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I've had employers who felt that way.
You and me both.
Yeah. Okay. So Hanyu, he won the gold medal in Sochi, didn't he?
Yes.
And
under some controversy. Well, not controversy, but it was a bad. The free skates were pretty bad, and everyone was falling everywhere. I think the ice was bad, in my opinion. I wasn't there, but. And therefore, I think he kind of lived under a shadow. He won, yes, and he deserved to win. I think that wasn't contested, but I think he felt that wasn't enough.
Okay,
that it wasn't his best performance, and he wanted to do the one thing that no one's done since American skater Dick Button did in 1948, and then again in 52. He won the gold back to back. Skating is so volatile that every 2 years, let alone every 4 years, usually there's almost a complete change in the top level skaters. Because it is, they're changing the system all the time. It is, again, an art and a sport. It's so complicated that they don't tend to last very long. So, as soon as he won, he announced that his goal was to win again. Okay. And as you know, he had an injury in November. At first, they underreported it. He had bad knee and right ankle ligament issues, and he's basically been off the ice since November. He just started skating at the last few days of December. He just started jumping 3 weeks ago. Just started any jumps 3 weeks ago, and the quads, the 4 rotated jumps. He just started about 10 days before the Olympics.
But he didn't attempt a quad in the free skate, did he?
Well, he did. He did 4.
Oh, he did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he did. He cut out originally because they skate the same 2 programs all season, and originally the free skate had 5 quads, including the 2 most difficult, which are a Lutz and it's leaving me now, a loop.
Okay.
He cut those 2 out and put in, so he went down from 5 to 4 and then did 4 of the easier quads. So Nathan Chen went the other strategy. He normally does 5 as well.
But he did a billion.
Well, he did a 6th one. He had no choice because he was 17th at the end of the short program.
He didn't do well in the short program, did he?
No, and nor did he on the team event. There's too much pressure on him. He's only been a senior for 1 year, and America doesn't have big jumpers. So they put all this pressure on him, and he just folded. That's why it was so great to see him do so well on the free. He did amazing. He actually technically won the free, only by a few points, which wasn't enough to make up for his loss in the short program. One of the things I like about figure skating, and a lot of people don't understand, is the 2 programs. There's a short and then a free program. The free program has so many more points because it's so much longer that really almost everyone is in contention until the end.
Okay.
So it's not like a lot of things where people drop out and you know who's going to win. For him to come from Nathan came from 17th place at the end of the short program to 5th place at the end. That's, and I'm not his biggest fan. I think he's a little too mechanical in his skating personally. But I got to say, that was amazing. He did a great job by adding a 6th quad. Nobody can do 6, and that was a record. No one's done that before.
Oh, okay.
But it also goes to show you that his artistic skills have a long way to go because he had 2 more quads than Hanyu and only 6 more points. That's not a lot. Hanyu dropped a quad and made them easier quads. Theoretically, his program can score a lot more, and he holds the world record for free program, which is, I wrote it down here, 223 points he got last year for the same program. So Hanyu got this time what was it, 206, I believe. I wrote that down.
I'm looking. I brought up the stats in front of me. 206.17.
Yeah. So even he was off his 223 was his top, and that's because basically he dropped 1 quad altogether and simplified his 2nd one. So, but he still did. I've got it in front of me here, and he did a quad Saukow and a wait a minute, that's the short. He did a quad Lutz, a quad flip, a quad toe, and 2 quad toes, and a quad Saukow again. So he had 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wait a minute, that's Nathan Chen. So Nathan Chen had 6, and Hanyu had 1, 2, 3, 4 quads. So he basically simplified his program because his ankle wasn't ready. As you know, he was originally scheduled to do the team event.
Yeah.
A week ago, and they dropped him because he simply wasn't ready.
I heard my wife mentioned that she had read something, an article today, or something about an interview he had done just in the last day or two, where he said the reason why he made his free program less complicated was because he wanted to win, and if he wanted to win gold, he knew that he had to do that.
And that's an interesting. That's a Brian Orser, his Canadian coach.
Yay.
Yay for Canada. It said this has been a real sea change for Yuzu because generally Yuzu fights Brian and a lot of people on this. He wants more complicated all the time.
Okay.
And Brian did this interview for a Toronto paper. I forget the name of it. Maybe the Globe.
Yep.
And he said this guy couldn't skate for 2 months. So he had to sit down and literally say, my normal strategy is not going to work. and he had to learn to be different than he normally is. And I think it worked. You'll find that skaters go several ways. Adam Rippon, the American skater, several skaters simplified their program a bit because art counts almost as much as technical. And if you blow a jump, then it not only screws up the technical score, but it basically ruins the artistic score as well. Part of it, anyway.
Okay.
So it was a strategy, and he knew going in that Nathan Chen, as planned with 5 quads, now remember he did 6, but he planned 5, was going to beat him on the technical merits. And for someone like Yuzuru, who's so driven, I cannot imagine the kind of emotional fortitude it took to say, I'm going to take a simpler route and just do it better. Because if he had lost, everyone would say, why did you simplify? You know, you're off 15 points from your maximum score for that routine. So that was a real risk. And Brian was saying days before the event that he was very proud that Yuzu did this all on his own, because he couldn't, Brian not only trains Yuzuru, but trains Spanish skater, bronze medal winner Javier Fernandez.
Oh, okay.
The Korean skater.
Kim Yuna, right?
No, well, used to, yes. But now the Korean skater, Chunwon, what's his name? I love him. I can't believe him. He's only 16. He's
Cha Junhwa?
Yeah, that's the one.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, you're 16.
He basically has 10 skaters in his stable.
Oh, wow.
And so he's so busy. Yuzu was largely left to his own devices. I mean, he trains in Toronto at the Toronto Cricket Club, and they've got Tracy Wilson and a bunch of professional staff there. So he wasn't really alone, but he didn't have Brian for a lot of that, and he had to kind of decide on his own what he could do and couldn't do. And the quad lutz and the quad loop are really bad on the ankles because you reverse the direction of your spin. And so those were out, and he dropped one altogether, simplified the other. And for someone I've watched him now for 5 years, I've never seen him simplify anything. That must have taken a large leap of faith. And to me, that's what's so impressive, is that he really was taking a gamble here, because he knew on points people like Nathan Chen and Javier Fernandez, and which is training partner and friend, and Chinese skater Boyang Jin, were going to equal or beat him on technical scores. And so that's a real decision to say, I'm going to keep it simpler, and I'm just going to do it better. And it's hard for the Olympic fan to see the difference. But it's not just the jumps that count. It's the transitions into and out of a jump that's really important. How he lands, what he lands into. And that's why his skating is, at least on a technical level, and artistically, I think still above all of those skaters, because it's just so much more complicated the way his programs are designed.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, Nathan Chen is amazing. I'm not taking anything away from him, but his transitions into a jump and out are to me very simple. You know, because he's a jumper, so he's setting everything up for the jump. Whereas someone like Hanyu is really a kind of, you look at Patrick Chen, Canadian Patrick Chen. Patrick Chan. I'm sorry. I'm confusing the two. He's probably the best skills skater there is. His strokes, his lines, his edges. You want to talk about jumping, it's probably the better skaters are Jin Boyang and Nathan Chen. In terms of showmanship, I would argue Javier Fernandez is the best of the world. The difference is I think with Hanyu is that he's the best overall skater.
Okay, yeah.
Jackie Wong, who runs a figure skating website called Rocker Skating, and I really recommend anyone who's interested in skating to check him out. He says he calls him the GOAT, the greatest of all time, because let me see, just to pull up. Hanyu has the world record for the short program, which was 1 point above his Olympic score. Last year, he got that at the Canadian Autumn Classic for 112 points and change. He has the world record for the free program, which is 223, which is still higher than Nathan Chen's score. Now, Nathan had 6 jumps. Hanyu had 5 and still scored about 8 points higher last year as well. He also has the record for the combined total highest, and he has the record for the biggest point difference between first and second. And now he has the record between back-to-back golds. So no one in the history of figure skating has done all of those.
I suppose it's like, Tom Brady from the New England Patriots has the same nickname. They call him the GOAT.
Yeah. GOAT, yeah, greatest of all time.
Yeah, because and
I think that's actually a very good analogy. It's someone who's maybe not the best at every individual specific component, but is the best when you look at all of the holistically, all of the components combined.
Yeah. And I think, even for like football fans listening out there, whether you love the Patriots or hate the Patriots, you look at Tom Brady and what he's done over the years, and I think just the stats, the victories, the Super Bowls, the yards passed, everything speaks for themselves, right?
Yeah, he's not my favorite player either. But
no, he's not mine. He's not mine either. But
it's hard to argue that he wouldn't be the greatest of all time.
Yes, exactly.
Because again, that it's not only the depth but the breadth of their records.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
exactly.
Nathan Chen is probably a better jumper. I know a lot of people will hear this and attack me for it later. His jumps aren't as pretty, but he can do more. He did 6 without even tiring.
Yeah. Now, how old is he?
He's, I believe, 19, 18. I'd have to pull that up. I don't follow him regularly.
Okay, I'm looking at this page now. I see Patrick Chan is 27. So by figure skating, that's pretty.
For figure skating, man, that's an old man.
Yeah.
And if I have a moment, people love him or hate him. I love Patrick Chan. And for him to come back last year and then to be completely, he didn't have the jumps that the others did.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard, when Mao had to come back the year before and didn't do as well. But I just thought Patrick Chan, he's still one of the most graceful and beautiful skaters out there in terms of his the stroking and the lines, and I think he did well.
He was part of the gold medal winning team for the team skate.
Well, Canada, again, overall, Canada still can't be beat. Some of my favorite skaters, like Nam Nguyen, didn't even go to the Olympics. That's how competitive Canada is as a team. They don't have number one in any spot, but they've got overall the best quality, the pairs, the ice dance, the men's and the ladies. Canada is still one of the, it's going to be Japan, Canada, and Russia every time. China's growing. But those are the superpowers in figure skating. And still, Canada still is. You can't ever count them out.
Hey, there's certain countries that are so competitive. When it comes to a lot of different sports, I was just hearing, well, actually, if you take a look at the South Korean men's hockey team,
yes,
you will notice that many of the members are Caucasian.
Yes.
Red-haired, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guys with English names. And that's because basically the South Korean men's hockey team, I think it's the first time they've been in the Olympics. They have, obviously hockey's not something that's a big deal in South Korea, but they have a Canadian coach, and actually they naturalized a whole bunch of Canadian men. Canadian players became naturalized Korean citizens to play on the team. And these are all guys. These are guys who are like, we're living the dream. Like, we would never ever be at a level to make it. Like, these guys aren't even in the NHL. These guys, like, we'd never be at a level we'd never be able to play in the Canadian team. But
that's, and I'm not one that really cares about nationality a lot, but you got to say that the Olympics took a certain strategic direction when they loosened those rules.
True.
I mean, look at the Jamaican ladies bobsled team. Those are technically Jamaican citizens, but they're all Americans.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Or 3 or 4, I think, are. Again, hey, to me, if you want to skate, I mean, if you're good at your sport, you should compete with somebody. I don't got a problem with that. But it is the kind of the new age of Olympic sports that the country that you were born in and raised in isn't necessarily the country that you're going to represent.
Interesting.
And that's fine. But, there's greater degrees, like the skater, the Korean American. I mean, she's of Korean ethnicity and has lived there for several years. I would argue she's got a stronger right to that claim than, again, like you said, the hockey team, the men's hockey team. But rules are rules, and as long as people play within the rules, I got no problem with it. But it is a different age, a different generation, a different direction for Olympic sports.
What do you think is now I don't know anything about the women's figure skaters or what's going on. Does Japan have any any strong contenders in the women's race for figure skating?
Yes, but I haven't been following this season as much, so it's hard for me to speak to it. Japan generally does well in everything other than. Well, I don't want to say that. That's not true. But their strength, ladies and men's. And I'm trying to think, because this year I have to say, I was so focused on Hanyu and the men's competition that I've only been following the other disciplines, which is there are 4 basic disciplines: men's, ladies, ice dance, and pairs.
Okay.
Synchronized team skating is not yet in the Olympics, but probably will be next time. And I just not as following as much. Let me see. I'm trying to think now. Why is it? I'm now looking up because I can't. Let me just not go there. Japan they have very strong female skaters. I think though it was very clear that with the Russians allowed to skate under the OAR label, that it's still the Russians dominate women's skating.
Okay. I'm curious, outside of figure skating, are there any other sports that you're interested in or that you will be following or have followed?
Not to the same degree. I'm never a team player, so I like individual sports. I mean, I do like the Winter Olympics period. I don't understand curling very much, but I've watched a lot of it. I do like watching ice skating. Hockey. I was thinking.
Ice skating with the sticks. Yeah,
ice skating with the sticks and the single blade. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, as you know, Winter Olympics is big in period in Japan, so when it's on, it's always on the background for me. But I don't particularly follow sports anymore, other than figure skating. I used to follow F1 and kart, open-wheeled racing.
Okay.
I used to be really into.
Didn't know that.
And then years ago, I was interested in sumo. Back before I even met Jason, our mutual friend.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Himself. But these days, I would say it's mostly just figure skating.
Okay, cool. I'm curious, by the way. Just for the listeners out there, could you paint a little bit of a picture of, in general, kind of like the overall coverage of the Olympics? How big is it? Is it something that like everyone's talking about, or a lot of people are talking about? Do your students give a care?
I don't know, because the semester is over. The semester ended about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in email or SNS contact with several students that are hardcore skating fans, or because they know I am interested in figure skating. So some reach out and have texted me during this event. but I'm not out in the general public
Oh, gotcha.
talking about it. I mean, it's on the news, and you can't pick up a newspaper, English or Japanese language, that excuse me, that doesn't have as a front cover one of the Japanese athletes. So yeah, it's definitely, in America, and I think it's different in Canada. You people up north.
Oh, we love the old Winter Olympics, man. It's our bread and
America,
butter.
I think it's a much lesser. We really love the Summer Olympics.
Everything's about the Winter Olympics in Canada.
Yeah, of course. And for me personally, I am not really all that interested in the Summer Olympics.
Me too. Me too. I'm
I've
the same
always
as you.
been interested in Winter Olympics, even when I was young in America, which is unusual.
No, I mean, it is a much smaller games than the Summer Games, but it's always been the one that really got me and my friends and my family interested in, the Summer Games. We couldn't care less. Except for some of the track and field events. That's all I care about.
Well, Canada, it's hockey and it's figure skating and it's curling. Canada's always well represented.
All the
there.
Stereotypes, man. But there's always a bit of truth, a grain of truth behind a stereotype, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things, and they've been mentioning this a lot on BBC and CNN, is that one of the nice things I think about the Winter Olympics is there's generally much more turnover. So it's less predictable than in the Summer Olympics. We know that certain countries are going to do well in this sport or that sport. America is a large country. They generally always top or come near the top to the total medal count. But nobody knows for the Olympics. For the Winter Olympics, it changes every year, and I think as the Olympic Committee, the International, OIC or whatever they call it, is much more flexible when it comes to Winter Olympics and change, like the mixed doubles, for curling.
Yeah.
That's revolutionary, and I love that they're pushing diversity, they're pushing multi-gender sports. And not only is it something different, it's not just PC, it makes it exciting. This is something new that no one's done before.
Yeah.
So you don't know who's going to win. I mean, sure, Canada always does well, but you didn't know they were going to win. And that's what made it exciting.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah. And it's a new sport. It's fast paced. It's the kind of thing I think that could draw in people who maybe never would have watched curling or have watched curling and said, that's kind of boring, to see this really fast paced, quick game. Although
I will give a warning. A friend of mine is a big a curling fan. He's from Southern California, which is strange. But he says curling is one of those sports that better watched on TV than live.
Okay, yeah.
And I would actually say the same almost of figure skating. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like being there, the smell of the ice, the sound of the blades. I love that, when they hit the boards, you feel it. I like that. But you're there for like 8 hours. These sports are long and they go on, and with TV you get recaps and you get the camera lenses camera positions that are so much better than any actual seat in the stadium.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I think he loves curling, but he says curling is not something you necessarily want to see live unless you're a very hardcore fan.
Gotcha.
I haven't seen it myself live, so I don't know, but I love it on TV.
I've played it a few times in my youth.
Really?
In my drunken youth, I should say, as in my youth, as in my 20s, early 20s. Went to a few curling clubs. I'll always remember the first time I ever stepped on the ice, and this was even before alcohol. Putting my foot on the ice and like literally within a moment, like my feet up in the air above my head, landing on my back, my head cracking off the ice. It's slippery. I'm just amazed at how with such ease and grace they move around.
It's one of those sports that a lot of people go, any idiot can do that, and then they have no. It's like like golf. I mean, I don't like golf, but it looks easy
because the pros make it look easy, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Figure skating also, but especially curling, because you think anybody could do that. But anybody might be able to get out there, but very few people. The kind of technical, finesse that's involved is really hard to understand. Yeah.
There's so much strategy. They're thinking. I think they're thinking many, many moves ahead when they put a rock in a certain place.
Have to be, you guess.
I assume.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems so complicated.
I don't know. When I curled those few times, there was a lot of like rye whiskey and cokes involved. I don't know.
It's Canada. It's
apparently
winter.
that's the
part involved in everything.
That's the performance enhancing drug apparently in curling. Rye.
Canadian
club. Yeah. Canadian club, man. CC and rye. That's the performance enhancing drug. PJ.
Yes, sir.
Why
do we always come around to whiskey?
I don't know. It always ends up that way, right? I don't even drink this stuff now. Well, I drink that stuff.
Yeah, you do.
At the moment, actually. And
I'm drinking whiskey right now.
Nice. It's how we do it. The social lubrication. So if people out there want to find you on social media, how can they do that?
They really can't anymore. I mean, I still have my YouTube channel, but I haven't, and I'm not going to update it. I'm not a fan of YouTube and what they do to content creators these days. So I have to say that, I mean, it's not a secret if people want to look for me, they can, but Kansai PJ, one word. Mm-hmm. But I haven't uploaded, and I miss actually broadcasting, but I just haven't found it. There's no real alternative yet. Vimeo is too artsy, and there's a bunch of Nico in Japan, but that's not quite right either. So at this point, I'm not really actively out there. You're welcome to put my link in there for those who are interested. Mm-hmm. I'll also send you a link because I want to push rocker skating. Okay, because for you who are those who might be interested in skating, he's an American, Jackie Wong, but he really that was one of the people that introduced me to the sport. So I think that's a good place to start. And then, like you said, just because Japan is so Olympic crazy, period, but especially figure skating, if they just check any of the English language newspapers here, Japan Times, Asahi, Mainichi, they all have very active figure skating coverage. Okay, yeah. Cool. All right, well, the links that we talked about will be in the show notes, folks. And PJ, thank you for joining us again on the podcast. It's been too long. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be back. Well, I want to thank PJ for taking the time to stop by the Just Japan podcast this week. Again, like you said, he's not so active on social media, but in the show notes at justjapanstuff.com, I will leave a few links to him. So check that out, guys. Again, thank you so much, PJ. Now, of course, the Just Japan podcast, we're all over the social media landscape. You can follow us on Twitter at JLandKev. Lots and lots of Japan content there. Also, the Just Japan Stuff Facebook page is filled with Japan content. There's always loads of Japanese news stories or news stories from Japan in the feed there. That's at facebook.com/justjapanstuff. And yeah, that's it. Go there, like it. And, thank you for telling all your friends about this podcast. Of course, you can always help us out by leaving a rating, a good one, a good little write-up over at Apple Podcasts. That would be much appreciated. And, of course, you can help this podcast grow by spreading the word and sharing our linky links around and retweeting stuff that we tweet and all that cool stuff. All right, guys, that does it for another episode of the Just Japan podcast. My name's Kevin. I'm coming to you from Beijing. This is a podcast all about Japan. And so that does it for this week's episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for taking the time to download the episode. No matter where you are in the world, I hope you're happy, hope you're healthy. I'll be talking to you again real soon.
Bye.